Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello everybody, how's it going? Jayson Montano, Meghan Angley, and we are joined by a very special guest today on a special Monday edition of Gorilla Sports Off Ice. We are lucky to be joined by Ryan Bach, President, Alternate Governor, Colorado Eagles. You've worn a lot of different titles there. Thanks so much for coming down, making the trip down the Hockey Highway.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here and get to see your studio today and everything that you've got going here with Gorilla Sports. So excited to be here.
Yeah, it's we've been talking about lining up to be able to chat with you. There's so many exciting things going on with the Eagles and with the organization as a whole, and a lot of changes coming for you guys that have already happened, and then changes that we're hoping are on the near horizon. So we're going to get into all of it. But I guess let me just start real broad, real basic. You know, it's crazy how fast the season goes by. For you up in Loveland with the Eagles, how has this year been kind of, you know, from your perspective, 10,000-foot view?
It's been, you know, this season, obviously there's always changes that are made in the off season, but it's been another real good season for the Colorado Eagles. You know, from start to finish, coming out of training camp, obviously you see the new faces and some of the new young talents that we've had in the lineup. And I think the biggest thing is we've had a real good balance of leadership and young players. And then with some new changes in the coaching staff, there's been some great additions. So overall, sitting in a real good position right now, and I think that's something that the team's continuing to build on each and every day.
Let's talk, you know, a little bit about you and how you've ended up kind of in this role, because there is a lot I want to talk about relative to what you just said. You know, it's been a good year for the Eagles. It seems like every year is a good year for the Eagles, and I want to get to that. But you are, you know, you played at Colorado College, and I know you played a couple different places while playing pro, but it seems like you keep coming back here. Just walk, for folks who don't know a little bit about your path, what it was about Colorado and you know, what kept you here, because you did play with the Eagles.
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah.
So following my CC career, I played at Colorado College for 92 to 96. Okay. And had some real good years there, and obviously loved living in Colorado. And then from there, I was during that time, my senior year signed with the Red Wings. We don't want to say that too loudly around here, but that's my first 3 years as a pro. I played in the American League, and then in the AHL. So that was my starting point. I played 8 years professionally following that. Went with the LA Kings organization for a bit, and then over the Florida Panthers. And then ultimately I ended up going over to Europe and played 2 years there. Yep. And then came back in 2003 with the opportunity to be back in Colorado and play for the Colorado Eagles.
You just can't pass that up. Can't pass up coming back to Colorado.
Yeah, and it was always on my mind, you know, the years that I had living in Colorado, and obviously the friends and people that I met along the way. I knew that the opportunity ever presented itself to come back, I would be here, and here I am another 25 years later.
Do you ever catch Meghan just following around heckling you for being a CC grad?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, finally the rivalry's back, which is, you know, the CC-DU rivalry. We've been to a couple games, and obviously the new building with Robson, I think that's helped their program. So good to see they're now on the up.
Yeah. We were at an Eagles game during the Gold Pan series at one point, but it was very pleasant. We talked about how both programs are very good programs, and it makes the Gold Pan rivalry so much more fun when that is the case.
It does. And I understand they have a game this weekend coming up, right? Is it?
Yeah, that'll close out the series, I think. Like the regular season for DU against CC, I think, is the final game.
This weekend?
I think it's one more weekend ahead.
One more week, okay, in 2 weeks.
I think.
Well, so, you know, you what was it about the Eagles? So once you came back and you know, because you finished playing your you know, the year with the Eagles, and what was it about it? Because, I mean, you jumped into that staff right away, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So I played the first season there, and then following the inaugural season, you know, I wanted to stay. Yeah. And I knew that, you know, with the opportunity I would have after, you know, finishing up my playing career, it was a great organization from day one. obviously with the founder, Ralph Backstrom, and the ownership group they initially had, I knew I'd be in a good position to further my career, whether it would be in coaching. I did a little radio broadcast,
Love it.
color with Kevin McGlue. So I did a lot from the get-go, which obviously has propelled me to, learning a lot in the professional hockey world and of where I am today.
That's awesome. There was a goalie coaching stint in there.
Yes.
And I mentioned that because I'm going to talk to you about goalies in a little bit. So I need people to know the credentials that you know goalies better than anybody. And this has been, I think, an interesting storyline for the Eagles this year because they've had to call upon maybe some unlikely names with Trent Miner getting his NHL debut opportunity because the Avs needed goaltending help. That meant Adam Scheel got an opportunity this year too, and he has been above my expectation. I guess tell me a little bit about some of the new faces and Kevin Mandolisi and Adam Scheel, and finally getting to see Trent Miner get this opportunity in net.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to obviously work with Trent coming in out of junior hockey, and to see where he's gone and the steps and progress he's made with his game is really impressive. He's obviously a very hardworking student of the game. Anytime he's at the rink, he's a pleasure to be around. And, just to see him go from where he came junior into the American League and the success that he's had. I mean, he's played some big games for us. And then to see him get up this year into the National Hockey League just says so much about him and what he's done to get there.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop it here, but just, we were remarking at the beginning of the season, he just seems like the type of guy that no matter what you ask him to do, he shows up every day. I mean, he's done ECHL stints, he's been with the organization for a long time. And I mean, he just seems, like you said, excited to be there no matter what every day. And so it was great to see him get a chance this year at the NHL level.
Yeah, just a true professional. And he's the type of goaltender that, exudes confidence when he's out there. And I think that players from the bench and the players that are on the ice know that when he's in, he's, going to give him a chance to win. And he's done just that this season.
What is it like for you guys, because obviously you guys are always trying to put together a winning team as well, to see players get called up that are sometimes the players that are having an impact for you. What is that kind of like for you to balance that? Like, man, we need this player tonight, but it's awesome to see him get the opportunity. Or do you not even really think of it that way? No,
and I think that was established from day one when our became affiliation with the Colorado Avalanche is, there's two parts of it. It's a development league, so you have to develop the players, but you also want to have that competitive team out on the ice. And I think that's one thing they provided for us is a talented pipeline of young prospects with a balance of veteran players. So I think it's special in a sense, not only from myself watching these players as they come in as young pros, and then their ultimate goal is to get to that next level. But it's our fan base that really follows being so close from Loveland to Denver. Totally. It's the hockey highway. And I think the excitement that they see when an Ivan Ivan's playing in our building or a Trent Miner, and the next night he's wearing a Colorado Avalanche jersey, I think that just goes to show that they love to see these players, reach the ultimate goal, which is to play in the National Hockey League. Yeah.
That's been a pretty special storyline this year, too, with 8 NHL debuts. Not even mentioning Keaton Middleton graduating from the American League to the NHL. We were talking about it just before we went on. Can you tell me a little bit about the pride that you wear this year in particular as a front office, seeing those players graduate and have an impact at the NHL level?
Yeah, I think, that's for us from day one, and this is what I've learned about the Colorado Eagles organization, is they've established a winning culture. And whether that's, in the front office or into the locker room, onto the ice. And I think that's one of the areas that we've really prided ourselves on, and obviously getting the support with the from the Colorado Avalanche really helps us. But that's something, again, that, we continue to strive. And then when you see a player like Keaton Middleton, who's put in the time, this just didn't happen overnight. It's a process for these players. He was extremely patient, and anytime he was on the ice for us, wearing the Eagles jersey, we knew what we were going to get. And it's 100% compete every time he's out there. He's a leader on and off the ice, and now for us to see him again, playing in the National Hockey League, that's what makes it so exciting and rewarding for us to see players like that.
Yeah. I want to ask you about what you just talked about with the winning culture, because I wanted to talk to you about this. You know, I remember when it was 2018 when you guys were, granted the I believe they referred to you as an expansion franchise into the AHL.
Yeah.
But I remember us having the conversation of the expectations and the culture that the Eagles had set. And truthfully, some of the Avs past American League affiliates had not really seen a lot of sustained success going to playoffs, things like that. And I remember us talking about like, how is that going to gel? What impact are the Eagles going to have to make sure that it meets that standard? You guys have not missed the playoffs since becoming the Avs American League affiliate. What was that process like? And was that a conversation that you guys had of, hey, we have an established culture of winning here. We don't care what league we're in. We want to be competitive. Or how was that whole process?
You know, obviously you have those conversations because leading us, going into the American League, a lot of people forget that 2017, 2018 is when we were in the ECHL. And at that time, we were starting to get, smaller affiliation agreements started with the Colorado Avalanche, which they were sending us players. Hence, we were able to win back-to-back Kelly Cup titles.
Yeah.
So I think that really set the stage for us as, continuing on as we transformed into, moving into the American Hockey League. So that was just from day one. I mean, there's some expectations there. And I believe, we get these young players in with our veteran players and our great fan base. I mean, it's an energized building. So I think that in itself, too, really helped us get out of the gate early. And like you said, making the playoffs, it's important. And, for our fan base, they're there from the start of the season and throughout, and they want to see playoff hockey. And I think that, the Avalanche have given us the depth to do that. And then the coaching staff obviously plays a big part in that as well.
And the Avs had a record number of players to dress in an Avs uniform this year. I imagine that translates to a record number of call-ups, which makes probably setting the lineup on a nightly basis for the Eagles very difficult to navigate, which is why I want to highlight how competitive this team has been this year. And I want you to talk about the resilience of this group, not only in the players and the leadership that are there, but in the coaching staff and kind of how that's by design. You got the right people and players and coaching staff to make this a resilient group.
Yeah, again, and that's a very good point, is it's the development mindset. They're there to develop as pros and as people. So, that's having players like that. I think they do a real good job of, the character first. Mm-hmm. And I think when you talk about resiliency, the lineups change on any given night. There's call-ups, and every team goes through it. So I think we're no different. It's just, I think, how you handle it. And when you have a supporting cast with the coaching staff that we do, with Coach Schneekloth, Coach Heinold, and Coach Branham, and then everyone else that's a part of that, I think that's where they're striving and pushing these players to, hey, you may not be getting your chance right now, but we're preparing you for when you do get your opportunity, that you're going to give us exactly what we expect out there. So, it's been a season, too, where there's so many call-ups, and you can't control that. But at the same time, you support that, and you make the necessary adjustments. And I think that's where our coaching staff has done a tremendous job in that area of making sure that that whole group of players, and they're prepared to go.
It's Schneekloth's second year as head coach, and I have asked you before, like, how did you guys know as an organization that you had the right guy? Obviously, he's been behind the bench with the Eagles and their success for a while now, but are you seeing a Schneekloth vision come to life even more so in this second year? Yeah,
there's no question. And, looking back, I think he learned so much, obviously being under Greg Cronin for the prior 5 seasons. But you knew from day one, even when he was a head coach. I was a goaltending coach when we were with the ECHL, and we won those back-to-back championships. And just the way he prepares, but he has that calming demeanor that when he walks in the locker room and he needs to demand what he needs to out of the players, it's there. But he also knows and has that balance of when he needs to pull back to let these players take a breath. And I think they've responded so well to that mindset of that coaching style. And he's done an excellent job for our organization.
you mentioned the fan base a moment ago. We've had multiple players who have come from other organizations, who've gone up and down between the Avs and Eagles, and they have said, I played in other AHL buildings, I played in ECHL buildings, this is the best one. The crowd is the best. It's the most engaged. It's the loudest. That is the part that no matter how many times I go up to see a game up in Loveland, I'm always taken back by how passionate that fan base is. Because that's, when you talk about, minor league teams, it's usually, smaller buildings. The crowds aren't as full. They got to do a lot of gimmicks to get people in. That is just so not the case up in Loveland. The building is packed every night. It seems like regardless.
It is. And that's where, again, from day one, who would have thought that, bringing a team into northern Colorado, you would get the following and support that we've had for such a great fan base. Mm-hmm. And it's continued to grow. Obviously, starting out in the CHL, it's a new thing for the northern Colorado area with professional hockey. Then you go to the ECHL, and it's the same fan base, and now they're learning and understanding the game. And then now being in the American Hockey League, they're seeing the second best league in the world, and the stars and future stars of tomorrow to play in the National Hockey League. I think they thrive off of that, and every night they're in that building, like you just touched on, it's electric.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I think that brings our players, stepping out of that ice each and every night to a whole nother level of like, okay, we want to do what we can for this great fan base, and they're going crazy. And as loud as the building is, I think the players that get to play in that environment every night, they absolutely love it. But it's also the opposition. I mean, every time you're in that building, I think it's bringing both teams up to a whole nother level with the roar of the crowd and how energized the building is.
I think the Eagles' home record reflects that there is truly a home ice advantage playing at Blue Arena, and I can still hear cowbells anytime that I leave. It's ringing in my ears.
Yeah, it's cowbell country, and we have the cowbell night that one game a season, and that's where it's even for myself. It's you're ringing for memorable. A few days after, but I mean that's part of the in-game experience that our front office has been able to provide, and I think going from on the ice to off the ice, preparing those on each end. We have the theme games, and we have, obviously you just touched on the cowbells. There's so much, and all the effects and the lights and the sound. They do an excellent job of the entertaining side of our fan base, but they obviously add to it, and it becomes an amazing experience for new fans and the fans that are in the building each and every night.
I think you guys run a great pregame report as well, I got to say.
Yeah, you do. And that's one of my favorite new additions. I get to see how what we're up to and what the Avalanche have been doing. So it's been great.
It's great. You mentioned the theme nights. I love the theme nights and all the different jerseys. Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
Sorry, I was going to go a different direction.
No, take it. I just wanted to get that comment in.
When I talked to Kevin MacDonald this summer, one of the things he wanted to see this year was a scoring punch. And that's hard with turnover. Each year you lose some of your highest points getters. But I feel like this has been a team that has led in goals per game all year. How have you seen that scoring punch delivered this year in players like Phillips, Megna, Tynan, MacDonald?
Yeah, well, we're a fast. That's another element of our game is we're a fast team. We have pace, and I think anytime you have that in that building, when you're playing teams that are not coming from, they're coming into the altitude, that certainly helps as an advantage of when you play the opposition. But to your point of the scoring depth that we've had this year with Phillips, and obviously getting offense from defense with MacDonald and Megnas and Sean. I mean, these are all players that obviously have that skill set that bring it each and every night. And I think the chemistry that they've been able to build, with the veteran and the youth mix, is they've done a great job. And as a result, they've been able to put up some offensive numbers that have been real impressive.
I'm glad you mentioned it because it does seem like it's coming from throughout the entire lineup, which points to good construction in terms of depth. How have you seen the front office address depth throughout this year?
Again, they've done a great job in a sense that, like we were discussing, the call-ups, that's going to happen. Yeah. So what happens is it's a trickle-down effect. So they do a real good job, the Avalanche, and the management there of giving us depth in Utah, which is an ECHL.
Yeah.
So we're able to draw players. That's where Shield came from. And look what he's done for us. So it's what they do down there to make sure that coaching staff's preparing that next step when they come to play for us. But it's all about the depth. And you look at our back end, and I think we have the toughest defense six in the American Hockey League. We're big, but we're also skilled, and we're tough to play against. And I think when you have that, and you have the scoring depth up front, and the four lines, and the combinations, and what they've been able to do there, the power play, specialty teams, it's all a big part of being able to have success. And they continue to work on it each and every day, and in hopes that you continue to climb the ladder in the standings.
Gosh, I think it's something that people don't think about enough, is that when you're building, an organization, not only are you trying to win at the top and win a Stanley Cup, you're trying to put, at least a competitive product on the ice at every level, if not, try to compete in those leagues as well. And so, to hear you talk about that, I don't know if maybe that's something that we've talked about enough, is what the organization has done from the NHL to the AHL to the ECHL, of icing competitive rosters and bringing in quality players that can play at multiple levels.
Yeah, and that's a real good point, because it's such a competitive league, and it's a tough league to win in every given night. It doesn't matter if the first, in our division is playing the 10th place team, you're in for a battle. And I think and that just says so much about the parity of the league and the process that every organization goes through with your young players. And it takes time. Young goaltenders, they just don't come in from junior, with like Trent Miner has had to put in the time, and he's obviously, progressed with his game. But that's something, again, that the Avalanche organization has given us the competitive depth. And, you talked about, again, making the playoffs each and every year, and that's something you want to continue to strive and build from.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ivan earlier, that it's kind of nice for Avs fans to be able to see how he impacted the Avs lineup, but how have you seen players like Ivan and Nikita Prishepov impact the Eagles on a nightly basis?
Yeah, and at a young age, too. Like, these aren't, there's Prishepov's a 20-year-old kid coming out of junior hockey. And
he got drafted like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
7 months ago.
I had a weird stat here about that.
Again, you look at what he's done coming in with not a lot of experience. And he's noticeable. He's impactful in our lineup, and with Ivan, coming here last season, and you didn't know what to expect. Like, is this kid going to be able to step in and continue to grow with his game? You just never know. And I think, obviously, with the great job they do up with the coaching staff, with the Avalanche and the management, it takes, a certain eye to find these prospects. Yeah. And that's one of the areas that, they're behind the scenes, and they're able to find these players that continue to make their strides, and their goal, again, to play in the big lights of the NHL.
What is your role in that? How much are you, personally, Ryan, in communication with what guys are doing, at the Avs level? I know there's a lot of communication between the two organizations. Do you have any part in those, without getting too far into it?
For a personal standpoint, I was able to work for them as the assistant goaltending coach. So I've worked with the coaching staff from top to bottom, and then obviously being around the management. Craig Billington was the general manager prior to Kevin MacDonald taking over. So those are relationships I've established over the years. My primary role is to run the front office. I'm the not general manager, president, alternate governor. Yeah. And so my job is to make sure that we're taking care of the players when they are in Loveland and playing at Blue Arena. Whatever we can do as an organization to put them in an environment to help them excel. That's real important for us. But I also have a relationship where, when Kevin's there sitting at the game, we can talk about players. Yeah. I know the goaltenders, so they've always been, I've had a spot in my heart for the goalies. So just being around that, and I'm still able to, get down to the rink and be around the guys. And it's important for me to get to know them and their personalities, because they're a big part of everything that we do in the community with our front office and the community outreach. That's something we continue to grow on. And we were talking about the theme nights. This Wednesday we have our Build-A-Bike program, which is, Chevron, one of our great partners. You come in, we build players after practice. We all get together, build 250 bikes. Wow. That will build them, distribute them to the less fortunate.
That's awesome.
Several schools.
Amazing.
All in one day. So it's, it's very impactful.
Yeah.
And again, those are areas that, I personally want to continue to strive with our front office staff and be the best that we can, building this organization and taking it to a whole nother level.
Well, if you're the one responsible for making sure that players are taken care of when they're up in Loveland, as someone who's been lucky enough to be up to plenty of Eagles games and get a closer look at some of your guys' facilities, I don't know if there's many AHL teams that take better care of their players. So, like I said, being lucky enough to see behind the scenes, if that's all you, I don't know if there's a better one in the biz. Yeah,
it's organizational leadership, and I think it starts. This was established from day one with Ralph Backstrom. He's a founder. Obviously, everyone knows Ralph and what he meant to the organization, his professional career of 6 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens, and then he coached at DU. I'll have to put that out there. It was coach of the year. It was coach of the year actually.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Ralph has been a big part of where we're at today, and then obviously our current owner, Martin Lind and his family. They're all about community and giving back, and so for us, knowing that we have that support. Not only from the players on through our front office, I think it makes a big difference because you want to do so well for them because they're such great people and they've done so much for the Northern Colorado community, and I've been very fortunate to be a part of that for the past 25 years. So,
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason players come back. Tynan, Megna, MacDonald, Callie Rosen. I'm looking at MacDonald and Megna in particular because you talked about how a character fit is really important for the Colorado Eagles organization. And those two leaders spring to mind immediately because of the character that they have on and off the ice. Why is that so valuable to bring them back to this organization?
It's so important. I mean, to have that, the leadership, but it's also they're players that have been here and knew how special it was to play, in front of these great fans that we have there. But then also getting to know our owner and getting to see what the type of person he is and how he appreciates everything that they do when they're on the ice competing each and every night. Because it's one thing to have, a great in-game presentation, but it's also that compete level that has to happen every night on the ice. So that's, with MacDonald and Megs, now being there, they've bought homes, they've established it as, their community. And it just goes to show when they did come back, right away, they wanted to have the team builders and just taking the younger players to say, hey, this is a special place to play, but, you guys are going to love every minute of it. And we're going to do what we do and make sure that you guys are, we're going to lead the way for you. And they've done just that, whether it's, again, community involvement. Anytime we ask them, is there a way you can go visit school? There's never any hesitation. So it just speaks dividend of the type of people and players that they are. And we're very fortunate to have them part of our organization.
I love that.
I was earlier in the year there for a record-breaking night in terms of consecutive sellouts at home. And so you might have a more updated number for what that's looking like. But Jesse talked about it earlier. This is an arena that's selling out every night. You're packing the house. There's an appetite for hockey all throughout Colorado, but especially for the Colorado Eagles. I hear there's some changes potentially on the horizon to accommodate this appetite for hockey that's growing in Northern Colorado with a new arena proposal. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure, I can tell you what I know, but we've been working on it for quite some time, and it's it's been a work in progress because there's just so much that goes into it. And as you see in our building, the fan base and demand grows each and every game, and I think that's stemming from you're seeing the younger families that are in there from coming from youth hockey. They come into our building, they watch one game, and the next thing you know, they're taking their kids to learn to skate, and they're getting involved in hockey. So from a youth side as well. So the new building is going to be comprised of 8,600 seats. And then it'll have 3 additional ice sheets attached for youth hockey. And I think, you put 2 and 2 together and how we've, been able to have that support of the youth in Northern Colorado. I think the fastest growing numbers for youth hockey are the U8s, and we go all the way up to through various levels to Bantam AA. And outside of that, we haven't had the opportunity to really expand that, just because we haven't had the ice. We haven't had the ability, and the opportunity for these kids to get into more skills camps and, play at different levels. Girls hockey is another one. We just haven't been able to establish that program. So these are all initiatives that we're looking at right now. Obviously, with the new building, it'll be a world-class facility. It's attached to it will be a plaza, several shops, restaurants, and then a hotel water park, 350 rooms. So it's going to be a premier development and really change the gateway. Everyone's heard that it's in Greeley. It's West Greeley, just off of Highway 34, a couple miles from I-25. So not too far from where we're currently at Blue Arena.
I guess my first question, 8,600 seats. That's not quite double, but that is significantly more than what's in Blue Arena, correct? Or am I off a little bit?
Correct.
On what's
Yeah,
in Blue?
we're around 5,400
okay,
seats
all right, so that was
now.
what I thought. Okay.
So it'll add a significant larger number.
Larger.
But from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing and being around in other buildings in the league, we certainly have the fan base and a growing fan base to.
Oh, absolutely.
To fill those seats.
No doubt about it. I think that's needed. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is we owe this to our fan base that's been there for 20 plus years in a building that's obviously got great culture and history, and we certainly don't want to lose that environment. Yeah. So it's important going into this that we want to have that same atmosphere, but at the same time, a state-of-the-art experience for our fan base with the latest and greatest technology. And I think everyone's excited, and we have a vote coming up here on March 11th, which will be a big day with Greeley City Council.
The youth hockey component probably is understated, how important that is to Northern Colorado's youth hockey, because from what I understand, it's kind of pushed to the brink as it is. Kids are not able to sign up and register because teams are at capacity, and it sounds like there's almost a need for more ice up in Northern Colorado.
There is. I mean, realistically, you look at the big picture, there's a couple ice sheets in Fort Collins, one in Greeley, which is the Greeley Ice House, and then NOCO, which is where, often our players will have to practice if there's an event in our building. But that's simply with the demand of the growth that we've seen. Obviously, with USA Hockey's headquarters, they're able to provide us with the numbers, and we're the third and fastest growing youth hockey program in the state. So,
Jeez.
I mean, you top on an additional ice sheets, I think we can really take it to a whole nother level. And that's, again, figure skating. It's adult hockey. Adult hockey is growing at a level that you can only play adult hockey later in the evening. So, again, the ice that's in Northern Colorado goes around the clock 7 days a week right now. And the biggest one is tournaments. I mean, as a parent, my son's playing right now, and we go to 5 different tournaments. And they're all, there's one in-state in Colorado Springs that we went to, but the rest are all out of state. And again, that's just because we haven't had the ability to house these tournaments, which I know a lot of people from the East would love to come to Colorado to bring their kids to a tournament. After the hockey tournament, you get several options to go ski, go to an Avalanche game. Everything's tied in. So something that certainly we're excited and looking forward to this opportunity of a new building. And then, like you just touched on, Megan, the part and initiative of the youth hockey, seeing that grow and giving these kids more opportunity on every level of youth sports.
Hey, if you're telling me that these sheets will mean that beer league games can start before 10 p.m., I'll be out front, in support, with signs. Yeah,
we may have watch parties.
I'll be covering the beer league games.
Yeah. I love it. No, and we had talked to you guys a little bit about as this was. Kind of rounding into form, but so you said March 11th is that city
that's where it goes to vote for city council. So again, there's a lot of work that's gone into it, and it's been a short period of time of when we initially was introduced that there was an opportunity to be at this location. So we'll just wait and see, and that's all we can do. I think everyone's done their part, and we certainly want what's best for our organization, youth hockey, and this will be a big part of it.
How much do you get to be involved in the design process of any of the new stuff?
That's been the fun part is, when you look at this building, and it's like no other. It'll be a state-of-the-art, world class.
Yeah.
From the architectural design, but yeah, we've had a lot of meetings and calls over the last 6 to 8 months with the architect firms and just walking through what's the best layout for, amenity driven, for the fan base, but then also on the hockey ops side. There's stuff in the building that, when you run out of space, the storage and the trainers facilities of the saunas and the hot tubs and everything else that, functionally other teams have, and you want to be able to provide that. And that's been the fun part of it. And then having the media rooms and, hopefully we're able to do our own podcast in the new building. That's, goals that you see areas that you can activate like that. That's all part of it. And the more we can enhance that experience, it's something that for the players and the staff and our fans, that's our goal.
I think the player side of it's interesting because it's already one of the best places to play in the American League, and that just takes it to a whole other level. That's going to be really desirable for players to want to come here. Yes,
and I think we've seen that year in and year out, that players that have been here and have wanted to come back, but now every opposition, there's so many players in the summer that I'm sure calling, the agents are calling the management, the Avalanche, saying, "Hey, our player definitely wants to play in Loveland, Colorado." So that helps, because when a player is happy with their environment and where they want to live with their families and young kids, that's all part of it. But to be in a great place, it certainly makes a difference.
So it'll be a little bit of like an entertainment district as well. I think you were saying earlier, shops and restaurants and things like that. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. You want that experience for a fan before the game, where you can go grab a bite to eat with your family, and then going into the in-game experience and that atmosphere. But then also after, if you wanted to stay at the hotel water park with your kids, you could make a weekend out of it. But then just having the amenities, restaurants, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of other elements that will be a part of this. But it will be an entertainment district like no other in northern Colorado. And with the location that it's at, I think it's a winner. There's no question.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
And I'm assuming you guys, one of those extra sheets will serve as practice facility, for the most part?
That would be the goal. I think you see that across the league. Is a lot of teams don't have the opportunity to play on the main arena or practice on the main arena ice surface, which is, we've been fortunate with the building that we're at now. 80% of the time, 85%, we're on that ice sheet. However, we don't have another one attached. So, to answer your question, it would definitely be, we'd have a practice facility. And hopefully the design that we're looking at now resonates the locker room, that you go into one side and back into the main locker room with close access. And I think that's important for the players. I mean, it's when you're going to have a locker room that they're going to have it that you can call home, and then just be able to walk across and open a door to the practice facility. I think that's going to be, a real added incentive.
I imagine that's something for you that as you're drawing it up, like, it would have been nice to have that when I was playing, but all right.
No, I had to make do with going over to NOCO. It still hasn't changed.
So you're drawing on personal experience.
Like, yes, I've had personal experience, and it's all part of it too, because, when you look at the development side of it, you have development days. So to be able to have two ice sheets and be able to, go from one ice sheet to the next, and, without having delays. And I think there'll be so much opportunity, even for the Avalanche to have a development camp, or the rookie tournament.
Yes.
I think
this
would give us the ability to do that, and to NHL preseason, NHL camp. The list goes on. So I think looking at the foreseeable future, there's so much opportunity that could come from this new facility.
Oh, Ryan, you've already been so generous with your time. You just said like 3 things that spurred more thoughts for me. I don't know if we have enough time for me to get through all of them. Go ahead. Do you have anything else?
No, that you've been very generous with your time.
I was going to say, just real quick, everything you just mentioned, I hadn't even thought about that type of stuff, that the new facility not only could improve everything you guys are doing, but, serve as a place to attract other types of larger events. I had thought about the rookie tournament, but you're totally right. NHL does preseason games and, all kinds of stuff that could be used in a facility like that in a part of Colorado that's growing so quickly. That, I mean, honestly, even I feel like I go to an Eagles game near the end of one season. When I go to one at the beginning of the next, everything around it has changed, and it's changing and growing so rapidly to be able to attract more attention up to northern Colorado, Loveland, Greeley area. That hadn't really crossed my mind.
Yeah, when we've had past conversations and previous with USA Hockey of hosting international competitions. So this in itself opens up that whole avenue. I mean, potentially could we see a World Junior Championship?
That'd be so cool.
I know.
Hold on.
That's a big ask, and that would be something that would be a heavy lift, but we would have the ability to do it with Denver being so close.
Right.
Yep.
With Ball Arena, New Arena, and then all the other ice sheets. You have DU's facility.
Right. Yep.
We're at Magnus.
Yes.
CC. Robson would be a little far, but again, the hockey highway is continually growing.
Right.
Yeah.
And up and down the Front Range. And that's something we're going to continue to see growth. I mean, we have the fastest growth rate in Colorado. Why? Because people want to live, work, and play in such a beautiful place. And I think that's something that there'll be no slowing down in that area.
Yeah.
The people that are moving here, and it's young families, and being able to watch a National Hockey League product on the ice, and then just down the road you have their American League affiliate, which has been something real special. And it's a model I think a lot of teams are trying to go to now.
Totally. And Colorado hockey fans are very lucky because, it hasn't always been that way where you can go 45 minutes up the road and see the prospects and like you said, that next generation. And there's a ton of fan bases that don't get that opportunity. We were sitting here with fellow goalie Nicole Hensley of PWHL, and we were talking about, they get a team out here in the next few years, they'll need a place to play. And like you said, there's just a growing list of options for sure.
There is. And I think the synergies of the fan bases, like you just touched on with, being able to, they're in a building, whether it's Ball, and they're announcing our score at a game or vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
So that really just creates more excitement within the fan in those venues. And I think it continually growing because the Avs fans, I would believe, are interested in seeing, how are our Avs young prospects doing right now, and then they get to see them come up and play. So I think it's a win-win on both fronts, and we're very fortunate to be a part of such a great organization, and then affiliation with the Colorado Avalanche has been a fantastic partnership.
Yeah.
Well, we're very lucky
I
to have both so close to be able to cover both, because the on-ice product in Loveland is so good in its own right that people are missing out. If you have not been to an Eagles game yet this season, you got to experience the Cowbells yourself.
And we've been very fortunate to have you in for as long as we have this morning. Thank you so much, Ryan. You've been very generous with your time, so we appreciate it. And you are more than welcome anytime you want to stop by.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And again, we appreciate all you do, for hockey and sports in general in Colorado. And we're, so excited looking forward to bigger and better things down the road with our partnership. And let's go 2 big games for us this weekend.
Yes.
Against Ontario. Ontario is sitting in first. We're 2 points behind in fourth. So it's a big weekend for points and positioning ourselves in the standings. So go Eagles.
Let's go
there
Eagles.
You go. Like Megan said, if you haven't caught a game yet, you are missing out. Ryan Bach, President, Alternate Governor, Colorado Eagles, thank you so much. And we feel the same way. We've loved it, being able to work with you guys this year. Look forward to doing more stuff in the future. So thanks so much for coming down. Ryan Bach, Colorado Eagles.